The orchestra has always had a very strong role in terms of projecting what is great about Australian culture internationally. We've done a lot of work with the Australian government on finding ways to be able to use what the orchestra does as a way of building the relationships with the government, particularly internationally. And music is such a great international language that it provides a way to bring people together away from negotiation tables, away from the issues they might be trying to address day to day, to have a common shared experience so they can actually build on that as a way of solving other issues in areas of diplomacy. Yes, we have, particularly in China. So, for instance, 2 years ago was the 40th anniversary of diplomatic relations between China and Australia. And so we took the orchestra to China and toured it. But we also had a big reception in Beijing, which allowed our ambassador there to invite some very senior Chinese diplomats and politicians and also business people to come and share around this common sense of friendship between our peoples as a way then of being able to further the interests of both governments. Orchestral music has to remain contemporary. It has to be something that is for all people now, and it's not just about things that happened hundreds of years ago. We do a lot of work with attracting young audiences. For instance, we have a series that's called Meet the Music, which we just performed last week, and we had 2,500 people in the hall, 1,700 of whom were under 18. So I think if you can present music in a way that's attractive and inclusive, and indeed is relevant to that age group, I don't fear for the future of classical music audiences. It's the whole engagement with digital is something that's really interesting for orchestras, because we are not a naturally visual art form in the way that, say, opera is or ballet is. You have to hear it and you have to experience it live, but it's not just the visual aspects of that. So for me, it's really interesting, how do you engage with the digital world in order to, A, provide something that's entertaining and very, very high quality, but also which will bring people into the concert hall to hear it live. So yes, we are, in fact, we were the first orchestra anywhere in the world to actually stream our concerts live to mobile devices. So when we did that once, I was in Beijing in the back of a taxi listening to one of our concerts live, in fact, a world premiere of a piece in the back of a taxi, which was just an extraordinary thing to do. I worked in the for-profit sector for a long time, and what happened for me was then I actually went traveling around the world, and I had a very privileged upbringing. But when you go to Beverly Hills and Bombay and the same trip, then you get questions about social justice, and that's what took me into the voluntary sector. But as my chairman of the Sydney Symphony Orchestra keeps telling me, it's just because you're not-for-profit doesn't mean you're for loss. And so in many ways, I think what I've learned in the not-for-profit sector is how to leverage resources in a way to achieve more than you can possibly imagine is possible in the corporate sector, because you're also leveraging people's goodwill and commitment in a way that you don't in the for-profit world. So I think that if you can apply the skills, experience and know-how that you gain in the corporate world, in the for-profit world, and then you can apply those, and also then you've got the goodwill leveraged in the voluntary sector, then I think you can achieve extraordinary things. Well, I think I'd have to say an orchestral piece, and we play so much great music, but I think that the music that you never get tired of listening to is the late Romantic era, so particularly the Germanic and the Austrian composers, and I think you have to go a long way to beat Mahler. And for me, Mahler's Fifth Symphony is the piece of music I grew up on that really gave me a love of classical music and leads me to where I am today. So I'd have to say Mahler's Fifth Symphony.